What if I told you a sealed Nazi submarine, lost for nearly 80 years, was hiding a secret so shocking it was never supposed to be found? Divers off the U.S. coast risked everything to crack open a chamber untouched since 1945. And what they discovered inside could rewrite history. From military daggers to encrypted Nazi codebooks, this isn't just a sunken relic, it's a chilling time capsule. Stay with us, because what they pulled out of the deep will absolutely leave you speechless. In 1991, a team of curious divers came across something beneath the Atlantic that defied logic. A massive submarine, seemingly out of place, rested on the ocean floor, far from where any such vessel was ever believed to have sunk. What they found would not only challenge decades of naval history, but open a chilling new chapter in the mystery of World War II. As they explored deeper, the secrets buried within this wreck would leave even seasoned experts in disbelief. This was the forgotten enigma of U-869, a ghost of war long thought lost to the currents of time. During the darkest years of World War II, the Atlantic Ocean was a silent battlefield. Beneath its unforgiving surface, danger moved unseen. German U-boats patrolled the depths with ruthless precision, striking Allied ships with torpedoes from the shadow. These steel predators were a central weapon in Hitler's strategy, aiming to cut off supply chains and break the will of nations. Dozens were launched, many destroyed, a few captured, but some simply vanished. And among the most elusive was U-869. Commissioned in 1943, U-869 was part of the Type 1X C/40 class, a powerful, long-range submarine built for endurance and destruction. Spanning nearly 250 feet, armed with 6 torpedo tubes, and designed to reach distant Allied waters, it was a beast of stealth and war. Helmed by veteran commander Helmut Neuerberg, the sub received its first major assignment in late 1944. Records suggest it was headed toward the Gibraltar Strait, a strategic bottleneck crucial to controlling naval movements between the Atlantic and the Mediterranean. But Germany's military command was unraveling by then. Muddled orders, miscommunications, and a crumbling infrastructure made the situation chaotic. Some researchers now believe U-869's final destination may have changed without any formal documentation. On February 11, 1945, a U.S. Navy destroyer and Coast Guard cutter reported the destruction of a German sub off Gibraltar. It was assumed to be U-869. Without evidence to the contrary and with Germany in collapse, the Allies logged it as a confirmed kill. 56 crew members were declared dead. No distress signals were received. No wreckage was ever retrieved. For decades, the story remained frozen in official archives. Another wartime casualty buried beneath paperwork and salty myth. But beneath that tidy conclusion, there were cracks. The reported wreck site near Gibraltar yielded no photographic or sonar proof of U-869. The chaos of battle, limited technology, and human error often distorted the truth. Radio logs from Germany were lost or ambiguous, and one fact lingered like a shadow. The last confirmed radio signal from U-869 placed it still in the North Atlantic, far from where it was claimed to have perished. It was as if the submarine had vanished into thin water. Years passed, but some couldn't let go. Historians debated the inconsistencies, but it wasn't until a group of divers stumbled upon a sunken mystery off the New Jersey coast that everything began to unravel. The discovery would rewrite history. Imagine a story that begins with a sonar blip, barely a whisper in the vast underwater expanse, then turns into a global puzzle no one saw coming. This is where the legend of U-869 truly comes alive. The waters off New Jersey are a haven for wreck divers and history hunters. With hundreds of shipwrecks scattered across the seafloor, it's a place rich in secrets and lost stories. But in the summer of 1991, divers John Chatterton and Richie Kohler were after something different. Scanning the seabed using side-scan sonar, they spotted an unusual shape, a long, torpedo-like object sitting nearly 230 feet beneath the surface, about 60 miles off Point Pleasant. Initial dives were treacherous. Cold currents, near-zero visibility, and tangle-prone fishing nets made the mission dangerous. But what they found beneath the layers of time stunned them. It was undeniably a submarine, a large one, yet no known records listed a World War II-era sub as lost in those waters. There were no visible hull numbers, flags, or insignia. The conning tower had caved in, and the hull showed signs of violent damage and decades of decay. They had unearthed a ghost, and it had no name. Dubbed U-Who by the divers, the vessel became a mystery too compelling to ignore. With each dive, their obsession deepened. They faced life-threatening conditions and technical challenges, from nitrogen narcosis to decompression sickness, just to gather pieces of this underwater puzzle. Inside the wreck, they discovered unmistakable German components, metric-labeled gauges, twisted pipes, and corroded instruments. Slowly, the evidence built a case that chilled even the most skeptical expert. Could this really be U-869, a sub supposedly destroyed thousands of miles away? The deeper they explored, the more the questions multiplied. How did this submarine end up here, off the American coast, without a trace in the record book? Was the official war report completely wrong? Or had the chaos of the war hidden the truth in plain sight? History doesn't always bury its secrets in archive. Sometimes they rest quietly beneath the sea, waiting for someone to find them. And in this case, U-869 was not ready to be forgotten. The divers had awakened a mystery that would ripple across decades and challenge everything we thought we knew about the last days of Nazi Germany's undersea fleet. They were just weekend explorers at first, divers chasing cold secrets hidden beneath the Atlantic wave. But everything changed the moment they spotted a corroded butter knife, still legible, etched with a name instead of a number. Hornburg, not a model ID, not a manufacturer's mark. A name. It wasn't flashy or dramatic, yet in that one small clue, decades of forgotten history stirred to life. Curiosity turned to obsession, and those part-time wreck hunters were now on the verge of rewriting naval history. Back on land, the knife led them through the archives like breadcrumbs in a maze. Military records, crew logs, long-abandoned document, until they uncovered a map. Crewman Georg Horenberg. He'd served aboard U-869, a German U-boat that vanished without a trace. From that point on, every descent into the deep became more than just exploration. It became a mission. They weren't just diving for debris, they were diving for truth. Further trips yielded parts of the submarine's diesel engines, pieces of valve manifold, all stamped with serial number. These weren't just metal scrap, they were identifiers, signatures of the shipyard that birthed the sub. Decimog AG Wesser, the same German factory that constructed U-869. The divers cross-referenced every number, every detail, and then it was undeniable. This was U-869, a ghost ship no one expected to find here. They hadn't just discovered a wreck, they'd challenged the official narrative of World War II. In 1997, 6 years after their first descent, the U.S. Navy finally acknowledged what these tenacious civilians had proved on their own. The wreck off New Jersey belonged to U-869, but with that validation came a staggering realization. This submarine was never supposed to be here. According to war records, U-869 had been lost near Gibraltar, yet here it was, off the American coast, over 3,000 miles away. The official story had been wrong for half a century. The divers had done what historians, governments, and navies had failed to do, and they did it without a dollar of institutional support. That revelation alone should have been enough. But what truly made hearts race and minds reel was the eerie silence surrounding the sub's journey. No one had been searching here. If not for these passionate few, U-869's bones would still be hidden in darkness, its story never told. The tale spread fast in diving communities, turning this find into a legend. It wasn't just a discovery, it was a resurrection. But even with that triumph, a darker question loomed over the wreck. Why had U-869 sunk at all? That's where the story turns murky. Because while the wreck's identity was now confirmed, its fate was anything but clear. One prevailing theory points to a tragic malfunction, that U-869 may have been undone by its own torpedo. During the war, German submarines suffered from a dangerous flaw. Some torpedoes developed a circle runner fault. Instead of moving in a straight line, they looped back like a boomerang. Several U-boats were destroyed this way, caught in their own trap. Supporters of this theory believe U-869 fired a torpedo, either during a drill or under pressure, only for the weapon to swing around and strike its source. Inside the wreck, divers noted internal blast damage. Walls bowed outward, compartments imploded. The pattern didn't quite match an external depth chart. Instead, it whispered of catastrophe from within. And strikingly, There were no confirmed enemy engagements logged. No signs U-869 had even fired on an Allied ship. Had it fired on itself? But history's never that neat. Another theory proposes a more direct cause, that the U.S. Navy sank U-869 in a wartime operation. Records show that on February 11, 1945, two U.S. destroyer escorts, the USS Howard D. Crowe and USS Coiner, detected a submarine and executed a depth charge attack. After the war, that event was credited as a U-boat kill, long believed to be U-869. The Navy maintained this stance, even after the wreck was found off New Jersey. Still, there were discrepancies. First, the coordinates didn't exactly match. They were close, but not exact. Second, when divers explored the wreck, several torpedo tubes were still loaded. If U-869 had been under attack, wouldn't it have fired them? And then there was the eerie stillness inside the sub. Crew positions, skeletal remains, all suggested no attempt to escape, no last-ditch effort to surface. Whatever happened, it was instantaneous. The damage raised more doubt. Some parts of the sub were crushed inward, consistent with an internal explosion. Yet other areas bore the faint imprint of external shock, perhaps from a depth charge. But those marks were scattered, not concentrated, and far less devastating than expected from a direct naval strike. The evidence contradicted itself. It was a story told in fragments, each detail revealing more questions than answered. But here's the part that keeps historians and divers awake at night. U-869's mission orders placed it in European water. But why was it near New Jersey? One unsettling possibility is that the submarine had been given new classified order. Perhaps it was rerouted to intercept convoy, or maybe it was operating under radio silence, forgotten by its own command chain. No logs survived. No final transmissions were ever recorded. That silence speaks volume. Because if U-869 had a mission no one knew about, the truth may be buried forever. It's one thing for a ship to be lost. It's another for it to be forgotten, misplaced by time, erased from memory. But this submarine, this steel tomb, was found by ordinary people who refused to stop asking questions. And now the ocean holds its secrets just a little tighter. You have to wonder, how many more untold chapters lie beneath the wave? How many more sunken truths are waiting, silently, for someone to come asking the right question at just the right moment? The ocean had kept its silence for decades, but now, it was starting to whisper secret. The final chapter of U-869's story didn't come through sonar pings or naval record. It came from a collapsed, corroded chamber deep beneath the Atlantic. Divers in 2024 pushed into what had long been declared unreachable, armed with advanced tech and steely nerve. They found a compartment that hadn't seen light since 1945. What they uncovered wasn't just metal and mildew, it was memory preserved in salt and steel, and it changed everything. Time had tried to erase the detail. Pressure had twisted bulkheads. Sea life had gnawed at the edges. But inside this sealed-off area, something extraordinary remained. Personal items were tucked away in footlockers, their rubber seals still clinging to function. Military gear was still buckled shut. Among the mundane, rations, logbooks, uniforms, one item stunned the dive team: a ceremonial dagger with a blade etched in elite naval slogan. Nearby, a Nazi Marine dress coat, practically untouched, bore the red armband and Iron Eagle insignia. But it was what lay beneath that cracked the silence wide open. Wrapped in oilcloth were documents that had no place being that far wet. Intelligence material, a swastika flag folded with care, leaflets in English with messaging meant to stir unrest, and then what looked like a code book from Germany's ABV, the intelligence arm of the Nazi military. Suddenly, it wasn't just about a lost sub. It was about a potential clandestine operation targeting American shore, one that may have stayed buried had it not been for this final, accidental discovery. This twist is more than a historical footnote. It reshapes what we believed about Germany's final war strategy. The possibility that U-869 wasn't just on patrol, but on a mission to infiltrate, sends chills down every historian's spine. It raises a haunting question. Were there secrets meant to be planted in America that never saw daylight? And just when you think it couldn't get more personal, it does. There was one man meant to be on that sub. Who was it? Herbert Gashowski. His name missing from the casualty list was no clerical error. Herbert was swapped out just before deployment due to illness. One small twist of fate gave him decades more life, and a burden of memory most of us couldn't carry. Imagine training with 56 men, sharing cramped quarters, preparing for the worst, then being left behind while they never return. That kind of survival weighs heavier than any medal. For half a century, Herbert believed the story given to him by the German Navy. U-869 was lost near Gibraltar, but in the 1990s, American divers found the sub off the coast of New Jersey. When they reached out to Herbert, he didn't believe them until they showed him the proof, a knife engraved with the name of a crewmate he had trained beside. Slowly, he accepted the truth, that his shipmates had not been lost in the Mediterranean, but much closer to the United States. Herbert didn't rush into the spotlight. He didn't seek interviews or attention, but he did share what he remembered. He helped confirm the identities of the men he had once stood beside and verified technical details about the vessel's final days. The most powerful lines came from diver Richie Kohler, who said Herbert didn't speak with drama. He spoke with reverence. He didn't dwell on how he was spared, only that he missed those who weren't. He passed in 2005, never knowing, or perhaps never acknowledging, what the sealed chamber had truly held. Now here's where this story blurs the line between history and legend. Because what was U-869 really doing that close to the U.S.? Why did it never fire its weapons? The torpedo tubes were sealed. Not a single shot launched. Was it ambushed? Did something go wrong before they could act? Or was the mission so covert, so urgent, that it left no time for retaliation? The silence of that sub's final moments that echoes the loudest. And yet, among all the quiet wreckage, a strange parallel emerges to modern Hollywood's obsession with stories of survival, legacy, and the toll of secrets. Think of how today's stars carry their own sealed compartments, full of past mistakes, hidden traumas, and untold victories. Some are uncovered by accident, others revealed just in time. It's impossible to ignore how many current celebrities are navigating legacies that mirror Herbert's blend of guilt and grace. Take Robert Downey Jr., once spiraling from his own version of a sinking ship. Today, his empire spans from real estate holdings in Malibu and East Hampton to a collection of high-end timepieces like the Grubel Force GMT and Jaeger-LeCoultre Amvox 3 Tourbillon. He's been spotted cruising around in a 1970 Boss 302 Mustang and a 2014 Audi R8. His production company, Team Downey, helped revive his creative identity while extending into digital and streaming ventures, producing content for Netflix and Apple TV+. He holds multiple insurance policies, standard for A-listers, with specific clauses tied to injury downtime and filming delays, protecting millions in revenue. His home features eco-conscious architecture. His portfolio includes stakes in sustainable tech startups, and his past mistakes have turned into a playbook for reinvention. There's a lesson tucked into all this. Whether you're the last name missing from a doomed roster or a star rebuilding from ruin, survival demands more than luck. It asks for clarity, forgiveness, and vision. U-869's legacy was sealed underwater. Herbert's was carried through a quiet life. No headlines, just truth. Sometimes what remains hidden the longest says the most. Just like the sealed chamber of that sunken submarine, some stories surface only when the world is finally ready to hear them. So what do you believe? U-869 carries secrets that could have changed history? Herbert know more than he ever said? The silence may never break, but the questions never stop. Let us know your thoughts. And there you have it. Untouched Nazi submarine lying silent off the U.S. coast for nearly 8 decades, holding secrets that stunned even the most seasoned divers. From pristine relics of a forgotten war to the eerie discovery of propaganda and encrypted documents. This was no ordinary wreck. It was a time capsule that refused to stay buried. We followed the haunting journey of U-869, traced the near-miss survival of Herbert Gashowski, and uncovered clues that might just rewrite a piece of World War II history. If that left your jaw on the floor, hit that like button and let us know in the comments what shocked you the most. Would you have dared to dive into those depths? And hey, if you love hidden history, long-lost secrets, and real-life mysteries that feel straight out of a movie, make sure to subscribe and ring that bell so you don't miss what's coming next. We've got more untold stories from the depths, deserts, and dusty archives of history. And trust us, you won't want to miss a single one, because sometimes history doesn't whisper, waits in the dark, silent, sealed, and when it finally speaks, it leaves us speechless. Thanks for watching. And remember, the past never really stays buried, especially when the truth wants to rise.